Is that it? Are we actually working? Ooh.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, jolly good. Hello, folks. I do hope somebody's there thinking about us. Do send a little message in on the Facebooky thingy. What's it? What are they? Comments? Are we comments? Comments. Yeah. Put something in the comments if you're actually there. We'd like to know if anybody's actually listening, watching, whatever.
They pop up.
And, oh, our technical wizard here, Gareth, he's telling me that it pops up and you can tell. That's really good. I like that. He's got so. Do you know there are so many bits of technology lying around at the moment? We've got computers, this camera, there's another camera, there's something or other here. I don't know what that's doing.
It's recording.
That's recording.
Sound.
And then I've got the thing here, which has got people's questions up. It's wonderful. It's wonderful having somebody who understands these things, because obviously I don't. But I do understand a bit about dogs. So please, if you are out there, do send in any questions you've got. We've got one or two to start off with. We're hoping all this works, and it will be available later as a recording, I think, won't it? Technically,
yes, it will.
Jolly good, we've got that. We've got a dog here, so that when I get really nervous or can't think what to think about, we'll just cuddle a dog, and that's always good as well. So hopefully we'll see how it goes for the next 3/4 of an hour. That's what we're planning, by the way. I didn't actually say how long the thing was going to be, but
wave hi
something like that. Oh, wave to Catherine. Hi, Catherine. So see if anybody else is on, see how this goes. Well, we've had 4 questions in, so that'll keep us going, but do bring in any more. And the idea is we'll try and do these as fairly regular things, and possibly over the summer we might do even longer ones and actually do some demonstrations with dogs as part of it. We're testing it out, see how it goes, and then we'll take it. Now I can see myself. This is quite scary. I can sort of see myself on the computer. Woo!
4 people.
Ooh,
So far.
this is very odd. Okay, so I've got to get used to it as well, and hopefully this will work quite well, but we'll see how it goes. Just because it's so much nicer to respond to, we get emails a lot of the time. A lot of people send us emails and ask questions and things, and we can email back, and that's great. But it's so much easier to have a form of conversation. Obviously, you can do individual telephone calls and stuff like that. Have a look at the website to check out all the things we do offer. But this sort of thing, hopefully, will make it a little bit more interactive, and we'll get more people coming in and giving us questions and things. I'm slightly spooked because there's sort of red lights and movie things and all sorts of things going on. It's quite interesting, but hey, we'll see how it goes. Right, let's start off with the first question. Tricia Harrigan asked the first question, and she asks, lead and collar or harness and collar, which gives the best control? Now, the answer to that is something that we will give a lot as an answer to any behaviour problem or any dog training problem at all. And my colleague here is going to say...
It depends.
Exactly, it depends. Really, whatever you want to walk your dog in, then that's fine. The key thing is obviously that it shouldn't be damaging the dog at all, and that it should give you a sense of control. So it depends a little bit on the breed, so we'll talk a little bit about different things. So what do we do? Well, we would walk our collies in just a collar and lead a lot of the time. I walk Gus a lot of the time in a harness because he has quite a sensitive throat, and anything around his throat makes him cough a little bit. Just as it does with me. It's a bit spooky really that my dog and me are the same, but if I have a polo neck on or something like that, I can't wear a polo neck, frankly, so I wouldn't have it on. But if I had one on, I would find it very uncomfortable because I hate anything touching the front of my throat there. And Gus is the same. So for comfort for him, I will walk him in a harness more often than I do a collar, but I will use a collar as well. Certain breeds, we'd always recommend a harness. And those breeds are generally the tiny breeds because it's just too easy to damage their necks by inadvertently moving the lead and perhaps pulling them. So any of the tiny breeds, always recommend, so that sort of Dachshunds and little Yorkies and all the teacup varieties of dogs, those small breeds definitely would recommend a harness. And that's most definitely better for them. Then things like the very flat-nosed breeds, so pugs, even boxers and things like that, think about a harness for those, because dogs that anatomically have got problems with breathing, so that they've got squashed sinuses, squashed noses, so they're dogs that might tend to snort a lot or snore when they're asleep, and because they've been bred to have these very squashed faces, then they're definitely best to be walked in harnesses. because anything that affects their breathing really is not a good idea. So anything around the throat is not a good idea for those breeds. And a lot of those breeds are also quite prone to larynx problems. You can get larynxes that are slightly soft or slightly easily squashed, and obviously if you do that, that's not very good for health at all. So we really don't want dogs to be getting their throats damaged by anything putting around them. So if you've got a dog that's got any sort of throat problem at all, or seems to be quite sensitive to anything against their throat, then yeah, absolutely think about a harness. That would be better. Other than that, it's really a matter of choice. Lots of people just choose to walk their dogs just on a lead and collar. A lot of people choose to prefer a harness, and that's absolutely fine, because so much of what you do with your dog totally is your choice, and we'll talk about some other things about that later. And the question was really not just about which to choose, but which gives the best control. And the answer to that is both of them give good control if you do the training. Neither of them will give you good control of dogs who haven't been trained. A lot of harnesses are sold as stop your dog pulling, buy a harness today because it will stop your dog pulling. And most of them, frankly, don't help. Most of them actually make pulling worse, because it's a little bit like if you think about if you had a big collar around your throat and somebody attached to a lead, you can pull a bit, but you tend to choke yourself, as so many of these dogs do, and it's not very pleasant, so you wouldn't pull too hard. But put a back sack on, rucksack, and clip a lead to that. Think how much more easily you could pull into it, because you can use your shoulders. So shoulders can pull against that harness really strongly. So any harness, particularly the sort that just has an attachment at the back, will tend to increase pulling. And that's simply because it's just like us putting a rucksack on. It's easier for the dog to use its shoulders and lean its shoulders into the pull. So if you're thinking of buying a harness to help stop pulling, for heaven's sake, don't buy one that's just got a clip on the back. The best sort are the ones that have got two clips, one on the back and one at the chest, fastening, whatever that is. And we sell actually Perfect Fit harnesses, which are really, really good. The website for those is dog-games.com, I think it is. And we'll check on that and put it in the comments later. Won't be technical wizard person. Thank you. Yes. He's going to write that down so we can do that. And we'll put that in the comments and see if we can find the actual, I'm sure it's dog-games. Anyway, try Googling Perfect Fit harnesses and hopefully it'll come up and you'll see the different sorts there. We love those. They've got the 2-point attachment, the chest and the back, and they're what's called a balance harness. There are other types available, but any harness like that that's got the 2 points of attachment basically means that the dog will balance between them. It is what it says really, that the 2 points mean that the dog feels that pressure on both and actually will get itself comfortable between both of those feels. So it balances the dog, and a lot of these harnesses will actually help pulling quite a bit just by putting that sort of harness on. But they will not stop your dog pulling. They absolutely won't. I haven't come across a harness yet that has actually stopped the dog pulling. They'll all still try to pull in the harness. It just makes it more difficult if they've got those 2 points of attachment. And most of our clients that have tried them have realised just how much nicer it is to walk a dog in those harnesses, but you've still got to do the training. You've still got to do it. Yeah, we've got that link, jolly good. Oh, there we go. So you can have a look at Perfect Fit harnesses if you want to look at those. There are other good ones. There's a Julius K9 sort that's got the 2-point attachment. I'm trying to think of some of the others. Really should have prepared this better, shouldn't I? Trying to think. There's one that we used to use called the Premier Easy Walk. There's various easy and easy spelt in all sorts of different ways. Walk harnesses, which I would say that the Premier Easy Walk has the 2 points of attachment. Don't like that quite as much because it's got a straight chest strap. In general, you don't want a harness that has a straight strap across the chest. That's a bit of a tongue twister, straight strap across the chest. Because again, if you think about it with you, if you had a rucksack that came round the front of your shoulders, I don't know, am I in the picture to show that bit?
Yep.
Yep. So a strap across there, then it's a little bit uncomfortable and it prevents you moving your shoulders fully. Whereas if you had a strap that came round the neck and down to a girth, or a waist for us, a waist strap, then that's much more comfortable and leaves the shoulders completely free to move. So if you're looking for a harness, first of all look for a 2-point attachment one. Secondly, look for one that's got a Y-shaped front that comes down around the neck and down between the front legs, so that there's no pressure across the shoulders. There's one or two other types of harness which are quite good. One's called Happy at Heel, but again that has a strap across the front, a little bit higher in that one, so it's not quite as restricting to the shoulders, but I'd still generally not prefer it. But that one works quite well. It works in a slightly different way, as does something called the Spawn harness. Both of those have a strap system that tightens if the dog pulls, and therefore the dog stops pulling to release that tightness. Again, nothing we particularly recommend, but if you want to have a look at other harnesses, those are two that might be worth looking at. So in terms of which gives the best control, then we'd say if you want to train your dog to walk properly at heel and not pull, then probably a 2-point harness would be the best one, Tricia. So think about that. Of course, if you've got a puppy, you can simply teach it to walk nicely on a collar and lead right from the start, and then it won't pull. So, think about coming to training classes too. We do, obviously we have a range of classes. Check out our website for details. Better promote those. There's no point doing Q&A, so we're not going to promote those. But we do have a specialist walking class called Wonderful Walkies, which is a 3-week intensive class that will show you how to use a harness and a collar and lead properly and teach your dog to walk nicely. Because in the end, the training's got to be the most important thing, and then your dog won't pull. It actually links to the second question, because we had one from Emma, and Emma says, my pup Margot really pulls on her harness to the extent could be on 2 back legs, then when gets home vomits. Help. I feel really sorry for poor Margot and for Emma. That's really very unpleasant walking for both of them. So absolutely the first thing I would say is change the harness. Change it to a 2-point harness, because if she's pulling on a harness and standing on her back legs, almost certainly it's just the back clip harness, and therefore the dog's just desperately trying to pull against it and go as fast as she wants to. Because of course all dogs want to go faster than humans. Even the tiniest Yorkie can walk faster than a human if they want to. So, we have to dogs have to be trained and encouraged and taught that it's a really great thing to walk nicely by us, because it's difficult. You're making funny faces. Why are you making funny faces?
You just carry on. I'll make all the funny faces I want.
Okay, you make funny faces, that's fine. Just don't do it in my vision, because that's really quite upsetting. I'm thinking, what am I doing if I suddenly develop some sort of extra nose on the side of my nose? Yeah, you go over there. Play with your dog. The thing's gone off. What's it? Screen thingy. Thank you. Right, yeah. So Emma's saying, poor Margot. Margot's pulling on her harness on 2 back legs. So I suspect it's a back clip harness. So the first thing to do would be, please change the type of harness. Change it to a back and a front clip, so you've got that double point. And secondly, think about coming on our course so we can teach you how to teach Margot to walk nicely. If she's pulling that hard, so hard that she's vomiting, it means she's got very significant pressure either around her chest or possibly around her tummy, or both. And that's obviously not good for her health, and she could be doing herself some damage. So please get in touch and let us help you. Let us either have a one-to-one training session or come on our walkies course or something. We have a walkies course starting next week, don't we?
Indeed.
In Bangor next Tuesday, a week today. And there's still places on that course, so if anybody is interested, please book on that and come along, and we will show you how to teach your dog to walk nicely on lead. So hopefully, and the other thing, Emma, is if your dog is vomiting after every walk, then think about going to the vets, because there may be something else wrong as well. Although if it is related to her pulling, I suspect it's just she's causing herself injury and pain from pulling. So
practicing that behaviour.
Yeah, that's the other big thing. Yeah, technical wizard here, wonderful Gareth, is just pointed out that obviously the thing about dogs is they get really good at what they practice. Funnily enough, so do we. If we get in a habit of having a biscuit every night with our coffee, then it won't be long before we start to put on weight. If we get in a habit of always having... it's probably a good thing you can't see what...
Just showing off my biscuit belly.
Not quite as big as mine, that's what I say. But we've actually got sweets here, look at this. Gareth's mum, whose house we are, she's very kindly letting us borrow her house, and she's left us sweets. Isn't that really nice? And I'm so far resisting them, but
Thanks, Mum.
It may not last the whole time, I have to say. So I'll try not to look at them, because it's bad for me. And anyway, I've just been out for lunch. But if we practice things, if we get in habits and we get in habits by just doing the same thing over and over again, that's what a habit is, then we get really good at things. And dogs that pull have just got in a habit of pulling. To train them, we need to train them to be in a habit of not pulling. But the more your dog's done something, this is a really important thing actually, because people will often say to us, oh, we tried what you said but it didn't work. If your dog has practiced 200 times doing something and you do a new thing twice, guess which thing the dog's going to do most? It's going to do the stuff it's practiced. So basically, if your dog's been doing something 200 times, then you need to practice the new thing probably at least 250, probably nearly 300 times without any additional practice of the other thing before that dog's going to get over it and change their behaviour. So always remember that if your dog has had a history of practicing a behaviour, it's become a habit, you've got to do the training so it practices whatever new behaviour you prefer at least nearly twice as much as as it's practiced the other thing. Tippy's being very good. Tippy's here, she's just lying on her bed over there and being very, very good. So if you heard a rattle a minute ago, she was being thrown a treat. So she's fine. Aren't you, Tippy?
You're a good girl.
Good girl. Yeah, she's been brilliant. So hopefully that answers the questions about leads and harnesses and things. If we've got any other questions, do let us know. Can we tell how many people are here? Have we got any other questions?
At the moment, we've got 4 live.
Oh, that's lovely.
And
hopefully
the number goes up and down a bit.
It will, of course, be put on regularly on the main Facebook page, you think? Yeah, it stays on Facebook, so you can watch it back if you want to hear what I've said again or want to watch it first time. Obviously, you'll see it on the playback, but then you can't ask us questions live, so up to you. We'll try and do others at different times so everybody gets the chance to do these things. So, harnesses and leads, difficult ones to sort of say, but the bottom line is walk your dog in whatever you want to walk it in, but do the training so that it walks nicely. Right, let's have a look. What else have we got? Oh, Kate this one's an interesting one. Mm-hmm. Kate has said, my greyhound won't drink enough water in this hot weather and she's looking dehydrated. That's a really good one, because I'm sure all of you have noticed our dogs have managed to drink so much water in the last few weeks. Certainly Gus has. I've really noticed how much more often I'm having to refill the water bowl. And actually that's one of the things that can be something that dogs like. Dogs can be a little bit funny about drinking water. Some dogs won't actually drink static water, and you have to sort of train them to drink static water from a bowl. By static water, I just mean water that's not moving. You can buy like drinking fountains for dogs, and some dogs definitely prefer those than they do just water in a bowl. So the first thing is think about how you're giving the dog the water and whether it's possible to change that. The second thing is to change the water regularly. Water that's sitting in a bowl does, like, any water sitting anywhere will become stagnant, and especially this hot weather, it'll feel not fresh, shall we say, or taste not fresh to the dog quite quickly. So the second thing is to just keep refreshing that water bowl, empty it out, make sure it's properly cleaned, then refill it again fairly regularly throughout the day. Another thing people tend to do when it's really hot is they give their dog very, very cold water. That's not actually a particularly good idea, and especially not a good idea if the dog's been doing a lot of exercise. The more that the dog has got hot itself, if the water is very cold, you're trying to cool the dog down very quickly, it can actually cause quite lots of health problems. As cold water goes down, it actually stimulates the vagal system. The vagus nerve is something that slows heart rate and slows breathing and things. So if the dog is really, really hot and you give very cold water, you can actually set off a strange reaction where the heart doesn't work very properly and the dog might sort of collapse just because it's had some very cold water. So if you've had your dog out exercising and you correctly want to give them a drink when you get back to the car, then tepid water is best. Always, if your dog's been exercising, use tepid water, not ice cold water. Dogs do like ice cubes, and in hot weather, while your dog's just moseying around like Tippy is at the moment, she's being very good, just lying on her bed. But then you can give the dog. Did we have a little look at Tippy?
Yes, we had a
quick glance at Tippy. Yeah, she's been very, very good. But in really hot weather, then giving a dog an ice cube just to suck and play with. A lot of dogs prefer that as well. But please don't give them iced water all the time. So refreshing the water is one thing, Kate. The second thing is to make sure that what you're feeding has a high moisture content, so that the dog will take in quite a lot of water as it eats as well. So, putting kibble in gravy and adding warm water to kibble, making a mush out of kibble and a little bit of meat or other bits. You can do all sorts of stuff, but just increasing the water content of that will also increase how much fluid they take in. Because just like us, it's really important they don't get dehydrated, and it's really easy. It has been. Today isn't so bad, is it? But the last few, in fact, it's glorious here. There's a wonderful view out across Donaghadee. We should see that too. Out on the sea, beautiful. But it's not quite as hot as it was the last few days. But even so, of course, it's important that dogs have plenty of water available. So, refill the blood bowl regularly, keep it tepid, add a bit to food, and hopefully that'll get poor Luna over her not drinking issue. So, right, where are we now? What else have we got? Joan. Oh, Joan says, next door's dogs won't stop barking. Help, they're driving me to distraction. I can think of lots of things I'd like to do, but probably not lawful. Owners out every day at work, out all day at work. Council have now been told for the third time. Makes no difference. Yeah, noise problems. Quite correctly, then Joan has reported that situation to the council. Council have a duty to go round and talk to the owners. And really, that it's a form of noise pollution, and the council they have powers to do things if that noise is particularly bothersome to people. So I can't speak for the council, Joan, but obviously keep pushing them, because it is their business to go and do something about it. But I feel very sorry for the dogs, actually. If the owners are out all day, then dogs have obviously been left alone. Joan doesn't say whether they're out in the garden or in a kennel or something, or in the house. It can be very annoying wherever a dog is. Obviously it's worse if it's in the garden or in a kennel. A lot of people leave their dogs with access to the garden, or leave them outside in the garden with an outside kennel. And although quite a lot of dogs might quite like that, it's certainly, if you're not there, dogs can start barking really very, very quickly. We've been to see several behaviour cases where that's been the case. Dogs just bark and bark and bark, and neighbours are complaining, so the owners have asked us in to see what we can do. When dogs are outside, there is so much that's there as a distraction. So dogs are hearing noises the whole time. It's more difficult for them to relax and sleep. So they tend to react to things. They might start to, if they're bored, which dogs will be if they're left there all day without much entertainment, then they might start doing things like chasing birds and barking at birds. They might decide to bark at the cat next door. They might decide to bark whenever they hear a human because they're asking for some attention. So there's all sorts of reasons why dogs bark, and that in itself is a really big Q&A session, all the different types of barking. I am going to answer a few of those on our Wednesday Whys. I think I've done one so far. Which reminds me, I ought to tell you about that. Yes, we do. In fact, we could we put the link to link onto our... It's on the website, isn't it? To get onto our email list. We could put that on here as well. We do have an email list if you want to sign up for those, or just let us know. Drop us an email at info@downdog.co.uk and we'll put you on our email mailing list. You can sign up on the website for the 10 training tips, and that should automatically then bring you into the main mailing list if you, I can't remember what it is, reply to something or other. But that's all supposed to be automated, who knows. But if you want to be on our email mailing list, then do. I send out emails around 4 times a week. Just on vaguely dog topics, and with sort of messages, some funny, some fairly serious topics. On a Wednesday, I do a Wednesday Why, so we answer a question that one of our clients has sent in about why does my dog do whatever, and we answer those questions on a Wednesday. So hopefully they're informative to people. So if you want to be on that list, do get in touch, or go on the website and sign up on the 10 training tips, which is somewhere on the front page, I think, and somewhere, I think, on most pages you can get to it. Anyway, have a look, and you should see that, and that might help as well. So things like the reasons for barking, of which there are about a gazillion, then we can start to talk about some of those if you're more interested. But common reasons for barking when dogs are left alone are boredom, are separation distress, where the dog's just got very upset being left alone. They're the 2 main reasons. Or the third one is that they're being disturbed. They're being disturbed by something that they don't quite understand or they can't get to. So it could be frustration because they can't. Perhaps they hear somebody walking past the end of the garden, but they can't get out to get at them. They'll bark. They might see somebody walking past the house window. They're left in a house. So if you're leaving your dog alone, best to prevent these things to stop any potential barking. I'm going to have my coffee, because if I don't drink this now, it's going to be very cold by the end. So just excuse me for a second. Oh, it is slightly cold. Tippy can have a treat while I'm drinking my coffee.
Look at a dog instead.
Look at the dog. Yeah.
You get a catch. Catch.
How can she catch? She's got a toy in her
She doesn't
mouth.
want to catch.
No, because she wants to play tug. We can't play tug because we're doing this thing.
I'll pick up any food.
Yeah, I'll just drop my toy to pick up food. You're looking at the camera.
She is indeed.
You are. You're showing everybody how beautiful you are. Oh, you are lovely. That's better. Right, finish my coffee. I'll put it over there without knocking any of the equipment. Risk going. Yeah, so barking. I'd say loads more about barking, but let's talk about what can you do about a dog that's barking next door. I have to say my dad actually is really annoyed by a barking problem. There's some dogs that live across the field from him, and they're just kept outside in a kennel and the owners are out all day, and the dogs I don't think are ever even taken out of the kennel, they're left there the whole time. So they bark, and they're barking very definitely from boredom and frustration. So different types of barking. A frustration bark is often a sort of single repetitive bark. So it's like woof, 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 and it just carries on like that for hours and hours and hours potentially. And that is, it's quite sad to hear, because it's basically the dog saying, help, please, anybody, is anybody there? Is anybody listening? I can't cope. And it's, you know, it's not good. Dogs are meant to be social animals. They are meant to have some form of company. Which, while we're on that, don't just buy a second dog. Some people think their dog should always have a doggy friend as company. No, they don't. Dogs want humans as company. Dogs want humans to be there, they want them to be around. Now, perfectly right, of course, we don't want to stop people who go to work having a dog. But there's so much you can do to leave your dog nice and tired so it'll sleep till you get back. So the first thing is the dog being walked enough in the morning? So, you know, if you've got a dog, you've taken on that responsibility. You've got a responsibility to deal with it fully. So get that dog out. Give it a really good walk and training session in the morning so that it's tired. Because then when you go to work, your dog is quite likely to sleep away the time you're at work. If you haven't got time to do that well and then take it out again in the evening for a similar thing, then think about getting a dog walker. There's plenty of dog walkers in the area, and we're going to try and link up with a few of them so we know how good they are and let you know about those. Can't really comment at the moment, to be honest, because we walk our own dogs, but we might sort of find. But obviously, if you're at work, then getting a dog walker is a really good thing to do. Oh, Catherine, by the way, I can push her, can't we? Oh, Catherine does.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
And Gabrielle's online now as well.
Oh, hello.
Say hello.
Hi, nice to say hello. Haven't seen you for ages. Yeah, so think about getting a dog walker. If you're out all day, every day, then, you know, breaking that day up for your dog with a dog walker, even if perhaps just 3 times a week rather than the 5, but as much as you can possibly afford, that will help as well. So boredom is one of the biggest reasons for barking when left alone. So make sure the dog isn't bored, make sure it's tired. Remember, just walking a dog, just taking it out on lead and wandering about the place, no matter what speed, is not particularly tiring. In fact, for most dogs, it just makes them fitter, so you have to take them even further. If you, though, do some training or play some games with your dog when you're out and about, then you're going to tire your dog out, because the way to tire a dog out is work its brain. And it's said that working the brain is roughly 4 times more tiring than just simple physical exercise. So taking your dog out to chuck a tennis ball for it for half an hour might make it pant a lot, but hasn't really used its brain very much. But if perhaps you do 5 minutes throwing the ball for the dog to chase, and then play some scent games with that dog or some search games with that dog, then you might tire your dog out, and then it's going to be more likely to just sleep and snooze the day away when you're at work. So think about getting enough exercise before you go out to work. Make sure your dog's tired, and then hopefully it'll be good to leave it then. Second thing you can think about is where you're leaving the dog. As I mentioned at the start, leaving your dog in the garden so it's free to just wander about and bark at anything it sees, hears or smells, then you are likely to start creating yourself a barking problem. In general, dogs are best left in the house. Where they've got a nice comfy bed, you can close curtains, you can close blinds, you can leave a radio on. All of those things will just dumb down a little bit some of the noises and things that might otherwise distract the dog from outside, and are more likely to let your dog just settle nicely indoors, and then they're going to sleep the day away while you're at work. In general, I wouldn't leave a dog in a front room, because watching people go past, or any room that's got an easily accessed outside, how many of us have sofas by a window that are just the right height for dogs to stand on and look over the back of the sofa to see what's going on. Certainly Gus does that to us. Luckily we're well down a track, so. But if I lived on a main road, there's no way I could leave him in that room, because he would just bark at anything that went past, so I would make sure he wasn't left in that room. So think about leaving your dog perhaps in the back kitchen, or a room at the back of the house where it's less likely to be noisy and the dog's less likely to notice things that are going past, or noises or whatever. We went to one case which is really quite sad. It was a bungalow in the country, and there were only 2 bungalows side by side in the middle of nowhere. And the bungalow that the dog was at was a rescue dog with a few other issues as well. And the second bungalow, which they were having a lot of work done to. And this poor dog was getting really, really upset by all the noise and the to-do and all the new people coming and going with all the work next door. And really it just had to be managed while that went on. But the owners themselves had found out the dog was much happier in a room that was as far away from all the noise as possible. And that's obviously the thing to do. To keep your dog away from anything that might disturb it or might make it bark. So those are some things to do. I mentioned turning a radio on, that can help a dog not get too bored. I love the thing Joan's saying, she can think of lots of things she'd like to do but probably not lawful. Obviously invading your neighbour's property to try and shut their dogs up is not a good idea, but it's very difficult. I think the only thing you can do in those situations is try and talk to your neighbours, explain the problem, and say how much, be honest about how much it's disturbing you, and ask them what they're going to do about it, and perhaps make some of the suggestions I've made today. So I hope those help, Joan. If you're the one with the barking dog and your neighbours said to you that your dog is barking, then a good way is to actually enlist the neighbour's help while you're doing the training. So you can say something like, okay, we used to leave it in the garden and clearly that barking in the garden was too much. We're going to try leaving the dog in the house. Would you be kind enough to let us know when the dog barks so we can measure any progress, measure if there's still a problem. Then of course when you leave a dog you can leave it with all sorts of things, and that's going to segue me nicely into the next question, which was asked by name's gone. This is useless. I've actually just had lunch with her. That's not really good. Jude. Gosh. I'm getting tired after however long we've been on. Jude was asking about a Kong. She just has bought a Kong for us from her dog. And you see Kongs advertised there. I think they're wonderful. Have we got one? That's busy got one lying around, have you?
No.
Yeah, should have thought we'd bring a prop. But basically they're sort of triangular shaped rubber things with a hollow middle. There's all sorts of different Kong toys, and many of them are stuffable with food and things.
I've got the wobbler.
I've got the wobbler here. We could talk about the wobbler in a minute. I'll talk about the wobbler. We'll get that. But the ordinary Kong, they're about that size, depending. That size for a small dog, the tiny one, the small one, then the medium size for most medium-sized dogs, and the large one for large dogs. They've basically got a hollow middle, so you can fill them with whatever and leave it for your dog. They show. Thank you. Another prop. The large ordinary Kong is it's a little bit smaller than that. And the medium size is about half that size. We'll talk about the wobbler in a minute. But the Kongs, the ordinary Kongs, you can fill. Kong themselves sell biscuits to put in Kongs, Kong biscuits, and they sell Kong stuffing. I'm going to get killed by Kong for saying this, but I personally wouldn't bother. I think there are better things to fill a Kong with. Things like Primula cheese spread or any other cheese spread on the market. But better be careful about advertising.
We're like the BBC here, aren't we?
Yeah, we better be careful. But any cream cheese in a tube, because then you can squirt it up the hole in the middle of the Kong and leave 2 or 3 little lines of that, and your dog will quite happily lie and lick that for quite some time until every little morsel's gone. Peanut butter is good. Nowadays it is possible to get peanut butter with something called xylitol in it, Xylitol, and xylitol is poisonous to dogs, so just check on the ingredients of the peanut butter you're buying. It used not to be in this country, but now it's an artificial sweetener, and it's now put in some peanut butters, so be careful when you're buying peanut butter. But peanut butter that does not contain xylitol is quite safe for dogs, and again a little smear of that around the sides of the Kong is going to be a good toy for your dog if they like peanut butter. Obviously you've got to check your dog likes these things. Things like meat paste are good, anything you can spread down your Kong. I fill my Kong with a mix of kibble, just mixed with a little bit of wet food, or you can dampen the kibble and squish it in. You can freeze Kongs, and that's been really nice in this hot weather actually. A nice frozen Kong is a bit of a nice lolly for a dog. So loads of things to do. If you really want some ideas, go on to Tinterweb and look up Kong recipes. And there's loads out there, lots of them from America, so you might have to alter how the ingredients side, but there's loads out there. A lot of people like to layer a Kong, so you might start with a little bit of kibble in the bottom, then you might put a little layer of ham, then you might put a little layer of, I don't know, cream cheese, and then you might put a little layer of more kibble, and then
like
you might
a nice
put something
lasagna.
else. Like a lasagna, not like the one I had at lunchtime, but I won't tell you about that. You can ask me later if that's something you're interested in. But yeah, it wasn't what I called a lasagna. But anyway, you can provide layers like that, and then perhaps stuff a bit of banana in the top, or anything your dog likes you can make into layers in the Kong, and then the dog gets different tastes as it eats down the Kong. But they're really great boredom busters. They're great to leave with your dog when you go out, and a brilliant way to do it. So while we're on Kongs, let's talk about Kong wobblers. This is the small one. You can get a larger one as well. And these are brilliant because they've got the one hole in, and you fill them. Hey, this is a real prop I can show you with kibble. Is that, I don't know if that's showing. That picture.
It's about 10 seconds behind.
Is ages behind. Oh, look. Oh, you see. Now I'm just about to undo it. Better not look at that. It'll drive me mad.
Don't.
So you fill it with kibble. Then I can't. I'm going to make a mess of this. Aren't I? Never do these things like. There we go.
Live
Then
TV.
just screw it on again, and then as the dog knocks it round, the odd bits of kibble falls out, and then the dog eats it. So it's a lovely way to eat that kibble. There are various other ones on the market. I just bought Gus a new one actually, to try, and Tippy found it on Saturday and had a great time with it. And he's got a ball type. There's various ones of them that just dispense kibble. So putting a kibble like that in an ordinary Kong, it just falls out as soon as you give it to the dog. So if you're feeding just kibble, then the wobblers are a better or similar type of toy, are a really good way. And that just need to remind everybody that we do not feed dogs in bowls. Poor Tippy. I'm playing with your... I can't give it to her because she's looking at it going, that's mine. That's my dinner.
Going to start drooling soon.
She probably is. She is
drooling. Oh, she is drooling. There we go. Oh, I hope the camera got that.
Drooling. I hope that was picked up on the camera. Oh, bless. Poor Tippy. We will give it you soon, darling. Oh, she's very foodie. Very foodie is Tippy. Gus wouldn't have been bothered. He only eats to exist. He's really not bothered. Oh, she's been thrown a treat now.
Okay, fetch it up.
Where is it? I'll find it.
She wants the real thing.
She wants the thing. Trouble is, if I give it to her, it's going to make a noise, and that wouldn't be good for this. But we're going to finish in about 10 minutes, so you can have it then, sweetheart. Okay. But yeah, we do not feed dogs in bowls. Bowls are for water, but a dog's food, if you think about, this is her, what's this, her dinner?
Mm-hmm.
So this is her dinner. She doesn't get it in a bowl, she gets it in this. If she had it in a bowl, she would, I know Tippy, she would inhale it within about 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
I think that amount of food would probably be gone, in about 20 seconds gone.
Yeah, just gone. Chewed a little bit, but gone. And then dogs are looking around for something more interesting to do. So if we put it in there, then that'll probably take her, 10 minutes? It would take Gus 20.
It takes her about...
Wander away and come back.
5 or 6 minutes.
5 or 6 minutes. Even so, the difference between like 10 seconds and 5 or 6 minutes, you're giving a dog something to do, something they've got to think about, because they've got to think about how to knock it. If it gets stuck somewhere, they've got to think about how they use their paws to get it out again. So, it makes the dog work for its dinner. Obviously, the best way to work for dinner is we're throwing Tippy treats at the moment. We're getting her to do things for her dinner and then rewarding her using the kibble as the reward. I did a little bit of training on Gus's weight last night because his weight was starting to just not be quite as good as it should be. So he got his dinner by doing a weight last night. So using the food for training is such a waste. I look at a bowl of food, and that bowl is a bowl of wasted training opportunities. So use that kibble. Make the dog work for its kibble. So if you haven't got time to do training with it, shove it in a toy like this, or mix it with something wet and stuff it in a Kong. Just make the dog work for its food. And that in itself will allow the dog to be comfortable and happy after it's eaten its dinner, instead of looking for the next thing to do. Right, I've eaten that, what's next? once they've sort of spent 10 minutes doing this, they're going to go, oh, I'm just going to lie down now for a bit. It does help tire dogs out. So do use food, and if you're out all day at work, then please use food type dispensing toys so your dog can play with those while you're out. So hopefully those tips, Joan, might help you suggest things to your neighbours, and I do hope that gets resolved, because barking dogs can be a real nuisance, and it's not nice for anybody to have to sit and listen to those, so apologies. Right. Have we got any other questions?
I'm just watching the drool.
Tippy's got drool down both sides of the mouth. Can we have a look? Should we see if the camera will pick it up? I'm gonna go and have a look. Look at that drool. Oh, Tippy.
Oh, Tippy, you're such a good girl.
You're very, very good. You can have your Kong in a minute, sweetheart. Oh. So, yeah. So, have we got any other questions from anyone?
Not at the moment, no.
Not at the moment. Oh, the thing's gone off again. What's it? Doodah.
No, I don't know about that.
All right.
Just an email.
Okay. No, but this has gone off, so I can't see this. I don't know if there's anything in there. There we go. Right. No, nothing more there.
No.
Okay.
Try it.
Right. Well. Oh. 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 There's little circles going around now. Ooh.
No. Nothing extra at the moment.
No more questions coming in. If you do have some, you've got about 5 minutes most actually to sort of say any more. And we do get a lot of questions coming. We've had a couple recently actually. That are going to be on some of the regular emails, so I won't give away all of those. You'll have to wait for the emails to see those. But we do get quite a lot of questions. Quite commonly, a lot of questions we get. What are you laughing at?
It's going to reach
the drool, for heaven's sake.
It's going to reach the floor.
It's halfway to the floor now. Oh, Tippy. On both sides.
I'll tell you what, I'll take this. Come on, Tippy, you take this outside.
Take it outside, because otherwise the floor's going to be completely soaked by the time we finish this, which won't be good. Poor Tippy. That was very cruel, wasn't it, showing her that and then, but she can go make a noise outside and that'll be fine. She'll be great. Oh, dear. Oh. Dear. Oh.
Carry on.
Right, so look up Kong recipes online. That'll give you plenty of ideas of things to stuff in a Kong and leave for your dog. There are plenty of other different toys on the market. Have a look around the pet shop when you go. But any toy that's a bit interactive. You can make your own. Oh, homemade toys. I haven't mentioned homemade toys.
Yes, of course.
An old tea towel or something like that, or an old sweatshirt. I made some out of David's old sweatshirts actually recently. Just tear strips about sort of that wide. What's that? 2 inches? I don't know. 4 centimetres. I'm not very good on centimetres. 4 or 5 centimetres wide, little strips like that, knot them together and then just plait them. Annette does a beautiful one where she uses 4 and sort of knots them together and they're gorgeous, but you can make your own simple one just by doing a 3-strand plait and then knot the other end when you get to it, and that'll give you your own homemade tug toy. Tug toys are brilliant, so important to play tug with your dog a lot. But also the advantage of that sort of thing is that you can then use the little gaps between the strips to put in little bits of food, so you can have your own homemade food toy. What is showing me?
Another question for you.
Oh, we've got some questions. How do you get a very
dog and human dog?
Nervous dog.
Nervous dog.
Right.
Nervous of dogs and humans.
How do you get a nervous dog with a nervous human? Do you think that means?
No, I think that's.
Or just a dog that's nervous of humans. Not quite sure what we mean.
A nervous dog that is nervous of dogs and humans.
A dog that is nervous of dogs and humans, right.
Thanks for the question, Tricia.
Right, yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that question. So how do you get a dog that is nervous of dogs and humans to come around? The answer to that is longer than the 2 minutes we've got left, and perhaps we'll start with that one next time. But just to say that the easiest way to deal with it, obviously prevention is number one. If all breeders would make sure their puppies are well socialised, particularly with humans, and that their new owners socialise ongoing with humans and with other dogs, fewer dogs would be like that. Fear is often genetic, Fearful parents will produce fearful puppies. There is a lot you can do to get over it. The main thing, and this is the sort of takeaway thing in just the 2 minutes we've got left, the main takeaway would be never ever force your dog into any sort of meeting that your dog is not comfortable with. So do watch the dog. If it doesn't want to go near another dog, that is fine. If it doesn't want to meet a human, that is fine. You can help the dog by linking those experiences with something nice, usually food. And we can show people how to do that. A technique called desensitisation and counter conditioning. 2 techniques. And so you can do that to help a dog. So sort of exposure at a distance, feed the dog food, let the dog get comfortable in its own time. But the very most important thing is give the dog loads of time to make a decision. And it may decide never to come near that human. That's okay. It may decide to come to other humans. That's okay too. If it does come to humans, make sure the humans know how to approach the dog. So just let the dog sniff at them. If they're going to touch the dog, move slowly, hand down slowly, tickle under the chin or side of the body. Don't come over a dog's head. We don't like things coming to our heads. We sort of get worried about that. So do dogs. So tickling under the chin or rubbing the chest or something like that is often nicer for some dogs. But some dogs just don't want to meet humans that much, especially if they've not had good early experiences. So the short answer is lots of patience, lots of time, never ever force your dog, and watch what your dog's saying to you. There's a way of we call it taking your dog's temp. If you're not sure about your dog, always look at these 4 things, TEMP. So T is the tail. What's the tail doing? Obviously the tail is again, that's
it depends.
It's got to be longer. It depends. But is the tail sort of loose and wagging, or is it tucked tight? If it's tucked tight, the dog is far too worried. You need to move the dog out of that situation. If the tail's nice and relaxed and just wagging gently, great. E is for eyes and ears. You want to check that the eyes are happy, excited, nice oval shaped. If the dog is worried, the eyes will be very wide and round, and you should be able to see you probably see a little bit of white around them. The ears, they should be pricked, alert, pulled forward if the dog is interested and keen to do something, excited about something. If the dog's worried, they'll be held flat and pulled back. Look at the dog's full expression. That will often tell you what the dog's... we're quite good at humans at reading dogs' expressions, and practice will make perfect on your own dog. M is for the mouth. What's happened to the mouth? A dog that is worried will often have its mouth clamped very, very tightly shut. So, is that a worried expression? I can't see. That thing's too far behind for me to be able to see. But a worried expression, that the dog's mouth will actually be clamped closed. If the dog's relaxed and happy about things, the mouth will usually be slightly open with the tongue very slightly hanging out. So more sort of... making funny faces to the camera. So look for that mouth being relaxed. And finally, the posture. Is the dog sort of leaning slightly towards something? Is the dog looking relaxed? Or are the muscles tensed? Are the haunches down? Is the dog sort of slightly crouching? So look for those things, TEMP, and that'll help you understand what emotions your dog's going through. And if your dog's looking scared and worried, then don't go near it. I've just been told we've got to wind up. I have gone a little bit over. I always go a little bit over. We can't afford to go very much over because we've got to go and run a class, and we've got to get there yet. We're a few miles away from where we need to be in a few minutes' time.
As a point of interest, Tippy has now finished her corn wobbler.
Where is she? She's outside somewhere, finishing her.
Took about 6 minutes. Yeah.
So yeah, about 6 minutes she took to eat that corn wobbler. It wasn't full. It was just a handful, but there you go. So it's a happy dog now. Is that a happy dog?
Oh,
yeah. Good girl.
She's got to have a dentist stick now. That's what she's looking for.
Habits. I know, habits. So we better finish there. Thank you very much for those that have sent in questions. I hope the answers were fun. Hopefully this technology all works. We'll be checking it out ourselves too, and we'll be back soon. So keep an eye on our events. We'll tell you when the next one will be. Bye.